So, you want to build AI that goes way beyond a simple chatbot? Perfect, you're in exactly the right place. In this explainer, we're going to walk through the entire blueprint for building a really robust, scalable AI agent platform, from the ground up all the way to a production-ready system. Okay, let's get right into it. To really understand what we're building, you have to see the massive difference between a simple chatbot and a true AI agent. A chatbot? Well, it's kind of like a customer service rep who can't go off script. But a real AI agent? Oh, it thinks, it reasons, it plans, and it actually acts. It doesn't just spit back answers, it uses tools, it has a memory, and it can tackle complex, multi-step problems. That leap right there, that's what this is all about. So, here's our roadmap. First, we're going to look at the entire platform blueprint, get that 30,000-foot view. Then, we'll zoom in on the core building blocks. After that, we'll dive into the really cool stuff, advanced orchestration and control. Then we'll see how this all goes from theory to reality, and finally, we'll get you set up to start your own journey. All right, first up, the platform blueprint. This is all about seeing the whole picture before we even think about writing a line of code. Now this right here, this is such a critical shift in how you need to think. Look, building a single agent, that's a task. It's a fun project. But building a platform that can handle hundreds or even thousands of agents securely and at scale, that is a whole other level. That's a serious engineering discipline. We're not just building a car, we're building the entire factory. And this just shows you the sheer scope of what we're talking about. This isn't just a couple of concepts. It's a full-blown 17-chapter educational guide that covers the whole shebang. It starts with the absolute fundamentals, like what even is an agent, and goes all the way through governance, cost controls, security, and then ties it all together by mapping it to a real-world stack like Azure AI Foundry. This is the complete playbook.
Okay, let's move on and start laying the foundation. We're jumping into the core building blocks. These are the absolute essentials that every single agent needs to function.
At the absolute heart of every agent is something called the react loop. Think of it as the agent's brain, or its cognitive cycle. First, it reasons about a problem. Then, it decides on an action, like using a tool. And finally, it observes the outcome. It just keeps repeating that loop, reason, act, observe, until it solves the problem. It's literally the engine that drives its autonomy. Next up, model abstraction. Now, you don't want to be locked in to just one AI model, right? That's super risky. Model abstraction is like having a universal remote for all your models. It lets you intelligently route a job to the best model, maybe a cheap, fast one for simple stuff, and a super powerful one for heavy-duty thinking. It also lets you build in fallbacks in case one model goes down. It is absolutely essential for a resilient platform. And what good is a brain without a memory? That's where RAG comes in. Retrieval augmented generation is what gives the agent access to your data. Your company's documents, your knowledge bases. It finds the relevant info, feeds it to the model, and grounds the agent's answers in actual facts. This is what gives it a reliable, long-term memory. Okay, so we've got the core blocks down. Now things get really interesting. Let's move on to advanced orchestration and control. This is where we stop thinking about just one agent and start thinking about a whole team of them working together. What's so cool here is how we can coordinate these agents. You can run them sequentially, one after another. You can run them in parallel to speed things up. You can even set up a supervisor agent, basically a manager, that delegates tasks to a team of specialized sub-agents. And for the really complicated stuff, you can build what's called a DAG workflow. That's just a fancy way of saying a complex flowchart for tasks with lots of dependencies. But listen, with all this power, you've got to have rules. Governance isn't some add-on, it is absolutely non-negotiable in a real-world system. This is the layer that enforces content safety, stops data leaks, controls API usage, and, this is a big one, sets budget controls so one bad query doesn't accidentally bankrupt you. Safety and control have to come first. Okay, this all brings us to section 4, from blueprint to reality. We've talked a lot of theory, now let's see how we actually get our hands dirty and build this stuff. The fastest way to learn is by doing, right? That's why this whole educational blueprint is paired up with hands-on labs. And notice how the labs map directly to the chapters. You don't just read about the React loop in chapter 1, you actually go and build one in lab 1. You don't just learn about governance, you implement your own safety guardrails in lab 5. This is where the rubber meets the road, and it's how you make this knowledge stick. And the best part is, this isn't just some abstract diagram on a whiteboard. The entire 17-chapter platform maps directly to real services you can use today on Microsoft Azure. And what's even better, platforms like Azure AI Foundry are popping up to give you a lot of this as a managed service, which just makes it way faster to get from your blueprint to a real live agent platform.
And that brings us to our final section, Your Journey Begins. We've laid out the entire map for you. Now it's time for you to start the expedition.
So, what's your path from here? It's actually a really clear 4-step process. First, read the chapters. Start at the beginning and work your way up. Second, do the labs. Get that hands-on practice to make the theory real. Third, spend some time with the diagrams to really visualize how everything connects. And finally, check your understanding with the summaries and questions. Simple as that.
So, we've gone all the way from the basic idea of an agent to a full-scale production-grade architecture. The complete blueprint for building these incredibly intelligent systems is right here, laid out for you. Really, there's only one question left. What problem are you going to solve first?